The raid begins with Jin-Woo making a decision that surprises everyone around him. He dismisses most of his summons and orders them to return, keeping only the shadows that are actively working. His reason is simple. If he depends too heavily on his shadow army, his own combat skills may eventually become dull. Jin-Woo knows that true strength is not only about having powerful summons. He must continue developing his own abilities as well. When the hunters arrive at the gate, they are immediately stunned by the enormous structure standing before them. Even experienced hunters struggle to comprehend its scale. Jin-Woo, however, remains calm. Reporters surround him, asking questions about his new guild, the raid, and his relationship with Eugene-ho and other members. Jin-Woo tries to ignore the attention and focuses on the mission ahead. The gate contains powerful monsters, including A-rank Naga creatures capable of overwhelming even experienced mage-type hunters in close combat. Yet, Jin-Woo's shadows handle the battlefield with frightening efficiency. Every summon appears to be at least B rank, and some are far more powerful. The observers quickly realize that Jin-Woo has already surpassed the normal requirements for an A-rank raid. The association's representatives begin to understand why they were instructed to watch him carefully. Jin-Woo is not simply another powerful hunter. He is becoming something entirely different. As the raid continues, he personally enters the battle and demonstrates extraordinary swordsmanship. Lightning erupts from his attacks, leaving the watching hunter speechless. One observer realizes that controlling such power would normally require enormous magical reserves. Yet, Jin-Woo handles it as naturally as breathing. The battle becomes completely one-sided. His shadows regenerate repeatedly, overwhelming the monsters while Jin-Woo moves through the dungeon with precision. He clears the dungeon, retrieves valuable monster corpses, and orders his companions to mine the magic crystals. Even the experienced observers are amazed. They realize that Jin-Woo is capable of handling the duties of an entire raid team alone. When the dungeon boss finally appears, Jin-Woo defeats it with a single devastating strike. The system immediately announces that he has reached level 101. His job-specific abilities increase, including Shadow Extraction, Save Shadow, Domain of the Monarch, and Shadow Exchange. The improvement in Shadow Exchange catches his attention. Its cooldown has been reduced, giving him greater freedom to move between his location and his shadows. Jin-Woo realizes that if he can reduce the cooldown even further, he could protect the people important to him no matter where they are in the world. After the battle, he extracts the powerful Naga and transforms it into a shadow. The creature's immense magical energy remains even after becoming a shadow. Jin-Woo names it Jima and welcomes it into his growing army. When the hunters finally leave the gate, reporters rush toward them again. The media is overwhelmed by the results of the raid. For everyone else, it was an extraordinary operation. For Jin-Woo, it was another step toward discovering the true limits of his power. After the raid, Chief Wu Jinchul listens carefully to the report and reaches a conclusion that even he finds difficult to believe. What Jin-Woo accomplished cannot honestly be called an ordinary raid. It was closer to a one-sided massacre. He cleared the dungeon, collected the monster corpses, mined the magic crystals, and controlled an army of powerful shadows almost entirely by himself. The association begins to realize that calling him a one-man army is no longer enough. Jin-Woo is practically an entire guild on his own. Meanwhile, events in Japan are becoming increasingly dangerous. In the heart of Tokyo, an enormous S-rank gate appears in Shinjuku. The sight immediately throws the city into chaos. Citizens stop in the streets as they stare at the massive gate, which looks less like an ordinary dungeon entrance and more like a living catastrophe. Japan's major guilds gather their strongest hunters, but the situation is desperate. The country has already lost several S-rank hunters during the Jeju Island raid, including Gotoruji. The remaining guilds struggle to maintain enough strength to defend Japan from other gates. The appearance of an S-rank gate in Tokyo creates an even greater problem because ordinary S-rank hunters may not be strong enough to clear it. The guild masters discuss every possible solution, including hiring powerful foreign hunters. However, the world is already facing multiple dangerous gates, and national-level hunters are in extremely high demand. Japan desperately needs someone capable of stopping the dungeon break before the deadline arrives. Eventually, they turn their attention toward Yuri Orlov, a powerful support-type hunter known for his extraordinary barrier abilities. His price, however, is enormous. Yuri demands billions of dollars to provide his services, making the Japanese authorities hesitate. While Japan struggles with its crisis, Jin-Woo continues focusing on his own path. He has reached level 101 and wonders what the next level will bring. At level 100, he received access to a mysterious key connected to the Carton and Temple. Now, at level 101, his job-specific skills have improved again. He believes the next level may reveal something even more important. Jin-Woo also receives a warning through a message concerning the origin of his power. A mysterious voice explains that his strength may be more dangerous than he realizes. The message suggests that the army he controls is connected to something far greater than ordinary magic. Jin-Woo begins to understand that becoming stronger may not be enough. He must discover where his power truly comes from and what force lies behind it. His concern grows because he wants to protect the people closest to him. Using the ability to share senses with his shadows, Jin-Woo checks on his family and trusted companions from a distance. He discovers that some of his shadows behave in unexpectedly strange ways, especially Baru, whose unusual behavior makes Jin-Woo suspicious. Despite the humor of the situation, Jin-Woo remains focused. An S-rank gate has appeared in Japan, and the deadline for its dungeon break is approaching rapidly. He has been contacted about the crisis, but another mysterious invitation from the system demands his attention. Jin-Woo knows that whatever awaits him inside that invitation may finally provide answers about his true power. For now, however, the world is preparing for another disaster. The situation in Japan becomes more desperate as the S-rank gate in Shinjuku approaches its breaking point. The country has only a limited number of S-rank hunters available, and many must remain behind to protect other cities from A-rank gates. The Japanese authorities know that sending all of their strongest hunters into one dungeon could leave the rest of the country defenseless. Yet if they do nothing, the consequences could be catastrophic. The major guilds argue over their options, but everyone understands the truth. An S-rank dungeon is on an entirely different level from ordinary gates. The disaster on Jeju Island has already demonstrated what can happen when an S-rank threat is underestimated. Japan therefore searches desperately for outside assistance. One possible solution is Yuri Orlov, a famous support hunter whose barriers could potentially contain the gate's monsters. Yuri arrives with complete confidence, presenting himself as the greatest support-type hunter in the world. He reviews Japan's situation and immediately criticizes their defensive strategy. According to him, leaving only a handful of S-rank hunters behind is not enough to protect the country. He demands an enormous payment for his services, calculated at billions of dollars per year. The Japanese officials are shocked by the price, but they have little choice. Yuri knows exactly how valuable his abilities are. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo is still deciding whether he should answer Japan's request for help. He has more important questions occupying his mind. The warning about his power continues to bother him. Someone who experienced resurrection described feeling as though another had taken control of his body and consciousness. That revelation makes Jin-Woo wonder whether his own powers are connected to a greater existence. He realizes that understanding the source of his strength may be more important than simply increasing his level. His shadow army continues to grow, and every new shadow gives him more options in battle. However, Jin-Woo refuses to become completely dependent on them. He understands that his own abilities must remain sharp because there may come a time when even his shadows cannot solve the problem for him. His determination becomes stronger when he considers the safety of his family and friends. Shadow Exchange allows him to move instantly to the location of one of his summons, and every improvement to the skill gives him greater freedom to protect those he loves. At the same time, the mysterious system continues to guide him toward an unknown destination. Jin-Woo knows that the answers he seeks may be waiting there. Before leaving, he receives another urgent message about the S-Rank Gate. The dungeon break is only days away, and hunters from around the world are gathering. Japan has almost run out of options. Then Yuri Orlov makes his final demand. He declares that for the right price, he can hold the gate for as long as necessary. But even his confidence cannot hide the danger ahead. The world is approaching another massive confrontation, and somewhere within that chaos, Sung Jin-Woo may finally discover the truth behind the power that has transformed him into one of the most terrifying hunters alive.